Everyone, welcome to another What I Would Have Done Thursday, and today I'm going to be looking into a Dr. Seuss adaptation. In particular, one that was probably the most heavily criticized out of the Dr. Seuss adaptations. And that film is The Cat in the Hat, starring Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat. Yes, this film was probably considered one of the worst attempts at trying to showcase Dr. Seuss's material. Obviously, a lot of his other works, like, for example, The Grinch and The Lorax and whatnot, have not been looked at as highly as well. But I think this one probably takes the cake as far as not trying is concerned. Because at least in the other adaptations, I think there was at least a little bit of effort, or at least a little bit more effort put into them compared to this one. So I thought it would be interesting to dive in and discuss what I would have done with The Cat in the Hat had I been in the director's chair, and had I had the power to make things different. Because I think providing suggestions to things and ultimately trying to see if I can come up with at least something that would have suited the material better, I think is something that's very insightful to people, as opposed to just criticizing and say, oh, look at how horrible this is. So without further ado, let me address sort of the issues that existed within this film and sort of what I would have done to change them. First off, right out of the gate, the acting is very off, at least from all of the cast, pretty much, from the children to the mom to the Cat in the Hat himself. It is really, it really doesn't feel authentic or like anybody was really putting in that much effort as far as trying to get some kind of performance. And that's, I think, a huge issue because you definitely want a cast that's invested in your story. So obviously, I think definitely a recasting probably would have suited this film, I think, a whole lot better. And had they focused on trying to pick people who could potentially work in the kinds of things that this film was kind of going for, then I think it would have suited itself a whole lot better than the attempts that people ultimately ended up making within this film. But that's just really scratching the surface. I mean, the acting is a big issue, which obviously I think could have been changed with either different cast members, or they could have at least tried to give the actors some direction, which I don't think they really provided to them. So I think it only makes sense that we get these kinds of performances. So another huge issue that exists within this film is sort of the relationship that's supposed to be between the mom and the kids. Now, I think this film actually would suit itself better if it was two parents, because you have a reason for why that person is really going away for a substantial amount of time, because you know the parents go on vacation or to get away, and leave the kids with a babysitter or something. And then you could have had mayhem sort of ensue from there with inserting the Cat in the Hat. That I think would have suited itself well. Also, there needed to be, I think, some kind of dilemma with the parents in dealing with the kids. Maybe the family is having some financial issues, and also the fact that maybe the kids are, again, like kind of how they tried to showcase within the film how the kids are, one kid is one extreme and the other kid's another extreme. One's super uptight, one's very rowdy and outgoing. I think, showing that aspect and how the parents maybe have trouble maybe relating with them because of that. And then on top of that, dealing with their own issues as parents, I think would have suited this film a whole lot better than just, trying to insert this Alec Baldwin character who is supposed to be like the replacement dad, but he's a complete jerk. That whole scenario I just think just does not suit this film well. And I think it would have been a whole lot better had it been two parents, a mom and a dad, raising two kids and having some struggles dealing with that, because there's maybe some kind of financial pressure, and the kids' personalities are kind of um, out of whack, and they it makes it difficult for the parents to relate to the kids. Um, so I think that would have suited itself well, because once the Cat in the Hat comes in, and once he sort of ultimately changes his perspective of the kids, they ultimately kind of drift away from their extremes, and they maintain some middle ground within themselves. I think that would have worked well, because with this kind of a story, and with its sort of moral that initially was part of the book, the Cat in the Hat was supposed to sort of represent, like, hey, it's okay to have fun, but if it goes overboard, then that's a bad thing. And you could have the one kid who's kind of uptight, loosen up, and then you could have the one that is very rowdy, kind of tone things down a bit. And then that be that, and then that be sort of your story. Like, they have a babysitter, but the Cat in the Hat gets rid of the babysitter somehow. And then ultimately the Cat in the Hat and the kids go sort of on an adventure, and at the same time, he wreaks havoc on the house. And you could maybe have the one kid being like really into what the Cat in the Hat's doing, and then the other kid being like, no way, this is ridiculous, why are we doing this? And then eventually they sort of balance it out, but maybe the Cat in the Hat goes too far to one end, obviously the extreme of destruction, and that ultimately, makes the children angry with him. But then he eventually comes back and fixes everything, and then that just be the end of it. A lot, very fairly similar to what happens within the story, just adding another extra layer in there of giving the kids some kind of personality, giving the story some more weight, and at the same time, having bringing out the fun that was supposed to be really part of the original story. Mike Myers in particular as the Cat in the Hat, he suffers heavily as far as his design. Like, the set design within this film, I'll say, is rather creative. It's just the way that he is presented, and the way that his body language is, and just the whole Cat in the Hat image just doesn't come off as strongly when it is played by him. He's not that, he can't be that eccentric. He's not like Jim Carrey, where at least with Jim Carrey you could feel that he was trying with the material that was presented to him with The Grinch. But as far as Mike Myers and being the Cat in the Hat, he's just not that kind of person that's made for that kind of a performance. So obviously, I think a casting switcheroo wouldn't have damaged this film, but at the same time, he probably could have pulled some things off had he maybe been given better, I think, direction as far as what they ultimately wanted from him. Because it seems like even the film doesn't really know what it really wants out of Mike Myers. So I think um, had they chosen to make him had they chosen to somehow improve the Cat in the Hat performance and also make the Cat in the Hat more interactive with the kids, because for the most part, all he's doing throughout this entire film is just showcasing adult jokes. And the adult jokes, I think, are another big issue too, because, for this kind of a film, it really doesn't work to the script's advantage. Um, Especially when you're doing something as like just innocent as Dr. Seuss, it just doesn't fit as well. Um, Also, they needed to give the fish a better role. I mean, the fish is very limited here. Um, and another thing too, is that there's not only a lot of adult humor, but the advertising as well is very kind of just shameless plugged advertising. Like, it has no creativity behind it, there's no subtlety to it. It's not like, the Cat in the Hat is just holding a Coke or something. It's like, shoving in your face, hey, this is a theme park ride, or this is Universal, um, and I think that's also something that definitely needed to be downplayed. I think they could have still kept the aspect that it is kind of like a ride, sort of similar to what they did with The Grinch when it came out. They sort of had a ride based on it, but at least that didn't shove it in your face. Like, what they do in this film and how they shove the advertising in your face is just not pleasing to the moviegoer. Um, yeah, I think had they just sticked with more child humor, made the script a little bit smarter, just provided better uh, acting, and had a more kind of established understanding and um, relationships between the family members. And again, yeah, had Cat in the Hat been a lot stronger character, and been a little bit more like eccentric and um, maybe even sort of like a child himself, this would have suited, I think, the material a whole lot better. Um, it's not to say that it would be the same as something like Dr. Seuss, but I still think then it would still have provided a better um, understanding of the material and doing something interesting and creative with the material. And I think doing the two ends of the extreme goes in really well with the Seuss message, which is kind of having this balance of, it's okay to be rowdy at times. It's okay to have this childlike view on things, but just don't take it to the extreme, and try to be an adult in certain situations. Um, so I think that's really ultimately the message that I think uh, Dr. Seuss is at least trying to get across, and I think they still could have gotten it across in this film too. There just definitely needed to be things that needed to be altered, and those things that I have suggested, I think, would have been a better fit for this film. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this topic. But if, again, there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.